Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented, as always, by our great friends at Titan MRI and brought to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Steve Spurrier will be joining us a little bit later in the show, as he always does on Mondays. It's a Meldon Monday, and we look forward to having that. Thursday's show, we'll have Ben Troop, former Gator great tight end, very outspoken guy, and he's trying to get people off the ledge, and that's good for him. And it will be fun to talk to him. He's always great to talk to. And then I get to go to Palatka that night and speak to their Gator club over there, so that'll be good Thursday. All right, let's get to our Process Service of Gainesville starting five, brought to you by Process Service of Gainesville and our good friend Scott Hart over there. We appreciate him. Number one, how quickly they can turn on you. Remember when remember when Billy Napier, remember when Urban Meyer was, remember when Billy Napier was the best coach in the world. He's got it figured out. This is twice that this has happened. Well, three times, really. Because it was after Utah, oh man, we've got the right guy now. That didn't last. It was after South Carolina, he's got it all figured out. That didn't last. Lost the next 4 games. And then it was after Tennessee. All right, this is what we've got. Now everybody's turning back again. Now, I will say this. There are, in my mind, 3 kinds of people that are fans of almost any team in the world. It could be, Wexham? Is that the name of the soccer team over there that Ryan Reynolds owns? Yeah. Right, that Blake Lively's husband owns, I should say, because now she's in the news because of Taylor Swift. Oh, my God. Anyway, it doesn't matter who you're a fan of, but there's 3 kinds of fans to me. In this case, you have to put the initial before it, but Gidiots here. And Gidiots are people that are just the extreme, ridiculous one. Everybody fired, want to start all over from scratch, think Belichick would come here, want to bring back Coach Spurrier, who has no interest in coaching a team anymore. People that are just over the top. Then there are the ledgers, and the people on the ledge are the ones that have their feet on the ledge and they're thinking about jumping, but they don't really, still are Gators, and they want to kind of stay in there. This is literally 10% of the fan base. The other 90% are Gator fans, and maybe they don't like what's going on, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. It is possible to do 2 things. One, hate the way your team is playing on the road, hate the way the lack of attention to detail is going on, and still like Billy Napier and still think he's the right guy for the job. Those 2 things are both possible. And I think a majority of Gator fans are right there. What did you guys ask for when Mullen got fired? We need somebody who could go out and start recruiting. We need recruiting. Well, he's doing that. He's doing a pretty good job at recruiting. Yeah, but now we also need a guy who can be Spurrier as a coach and then be Urban as a special teams guy and recruit the heck out of it. I mean, I get it. Everybody wants a great coach to come in here and do great things. It hadn't happened so far, and we'll see if it does. I think it can. I've said this a million times. The blueprint that Billy Napier is working with can work. It doesn't mean it will. It can work. Doesn't mean it's automatic. Again, it's going to take some time, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Number 2 on the Process Service of Gainesville starting 5, nothing went right. And by that I mean it wasn't that Kentucky was great in every phase. It's that Florida was bad in every phase. And no offense to Kentucky. Kentucky's got a good team. They're not a great team. I still think they're going to get waxed by Georgia this weekend. Their quarterback, Devin Leary, did nothing in that game. He was just a facilitator. And Graham Mertz had great stats, but he was bad early. So that didn't work. The running game didn't work. Offensive line didn't play well. Penalties. Special teams, huge gaffe again. It seems to happen in every loss and every road game. Where Florida goes on the road, they have one terrible special teams mistake that changes the game, gives the other team the ball. They have one big play that goes against them for a touchdown. They have one turnover that's huge in the game, and they just don't get enough going on offense. They are able to move the ball, but they can't score. And you get the 2 4th downs and stuff. Nothing went right. We should have seen a little bit of this coming. Ray Davis, and I barely mentioned Ray Davis on Thursday when I was talking about Kentucky's team. But if you remember, and I had to go look it up because I didn't remember it, exactly what he did in the Vanderbilt game last year. He was at Vanderbilt last year, 30 carries, 122 yards. So no big surprise that Ray Davis ran hard and was able to run over guys. But again, what they did was spread Florida out and then run the ball right at the middle. And Florida's a little light at linebacker. They got good players there. They got guys that are good athletes, and that's an area where they were able to attack Florida. And they were able to do that over and over and over again. It was very reminiscent of the game 2 years ago against LSU. Different coordinators, different coaches, different head coach, mostly, I think almost all different players too, but it still happened exactly the same way. Anyway, it was a physical beatdown. There's no question about it. And now Florida ranks last in scoring in the SEC. All right. Now you've got a coach who's been around for, 18 games, and you're last in the SEC? What is your offense? I don't know. I really am not sure. He was asked about that today, and he said, look, for an offense to be good, it's got to be precise, and they weren't precise. Yeah. Well, then be precise. How about that? Let me get to that, too. Number 3 on the process service of Gainesville starting 5. 2 weeks ago, I was getting this from Florida fans. I think I can see a path to winning the East. I think we can win the East. I mean, Georgia looks susceptible. Going to Missouri, we, beat them. Can win at Kentucky, obviously. Used to win there all the time. Can win at South Carolina. Yeah. Now you're saying I'm not sure they can get to 6 wins. I'm not sure they can get to 5 wins. From 8, you were talking about 8-4. Now you're talking about 4-8. And look, I don't blame you. There's nothing wrong with being critical of the way the Gators played on Saturday. There's nothing being critical about the way the Gators have played on the road under Billy Napier. 1-5 in true road games. The last coach to do that was Charlie Pell. And that was in 0-10-1 year, was involved in that. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to do what my wife did, which is go out and trim hedges during the second half because she didn't want to watch it. Or what Robbie's wife did, which was take a nap, or what another friend of mine's wife did, which was go to work because she didn't want to watch it anymore. It's okay, and it's okay if you didn't want to watch the second half. I get it. Look, I get all of your frustrations and angst and being upset. There's nothing wrong with being mad or being angry with this. Be careful, though. I mean, what you did to Chris Couch is not right. And again, these are gidiots that did this, sending him all these texts about how fat he is and everything. You're bad people. I mean, don't do those kind of things. And, of course, he's since deleted his account on Twitter. I'll still call it Twitter for now. But anyway, there is no doubt that Billy Napier needs to do some self-evaluation. It is hard. Like my wife was saying to me, they got to hire a new special teams coach. I go, yeah, at the end of the year. You can't do anything about it now. There's nothing you can do about it, Missy. You can fire people and put other people in charge, but you're not going to bring somebody in 5 games into the season. You can't get people just to leave their jobs. I mean, it does happen occasionally, but it's rare. I don't think that's the answer necessarily. It is self-evaluation about everything you're doing. It includes what you're doing when you go on the road. It includes a lot of the things that you're dealing with special teams, a lot of things you're dealing with the offense, a lot of things you're dealing with the offensive line. Why can't we not have penalties when we go on the road? Why can we not have, I mean, for example, the penalty on Dijon Johnson for leaping and trying to block a kick, which you're not allowed to do, and as soon as it happened, I went, oh, I hope they don't call that, and they did. But when those things happen, they spent part of their week this week going over that play because they saw a play similar to that happening in their previous game against Charlotte. So they sent it to the SEC office, wanted an interpretation of it, want to know what we can do, what we can't do. Is this if you start to jump? Anyway, and went over with the players, and a guy, a freshman, made a mistake. It's a team loss, and it's up to the team to play better, and it's up to the team, the players to do better, but it's up to the coaches to coach better. This was a total, everybody involved in it got an L. Everybody. Coaches, players, even equipment guys. You get an L. Sorry. Let's get to number 4 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5. It feels like Florida cannot get its mojo back. And I was trying to think about this. When did it leave? When did Florida's mojo leave? Obviously, Steve Spurrier created this mojo and this swagger, and Urban Meyer came in and did an amazing job and brought in great recruits and worked their tails off. And Florida had a mojo about it. They were the program, man. They were as powerful during that stretch as anybody. Lost some games, certainly. Didn't win all the national championships, but won 3 during that run from 90 through 2010. So I was trying to think when could I pinpoint when Florida's mojo just went out. When Dr. Evil went back in time and got it from Austin Powers in his frozen state. And I think there's 3 times when it feels like it happened. One was when Urban came back for the last year, which he shouldn't have done, which he didn't want to do, but then he was afraid people were going to get fired, and he was, I think it was Mickey Marotti who put it in his head, look, all these people you're seeing here that are working out here are all gone because you're leaving. And he talked himself into coming back, talked Jeremy into saying, well, if you're not going to hire Steve Adazio, who he wanted him to hire, I guess, and they started talking about it, he should never come back. And Jeremy never should have talked him into it. And Jeremy and I are friends, and I talk to him all the time, but I'm telling you, and he knows that, I think in retrospect, it's easy to look back on it and say that, okay, that's one instance. The other one would be when Will Muschamp beat Tennessee 10-9 up at Knoxville, and with Treon Harris coming in at quarterback, you're like, man, they finally found a guy. They scored 10 points, okay? So, but they finally found a guy. Now they finally got Driscoll out of there. They'll be good. And what happened on Monday? Press conference delayed because Treon Harris is dealing with a sexual assault issue, which I think it got dropped later. And I'm not trying to jump on him, so I'm not blaming him necessarily. I don't know what happened there, but it just seemed like that kind of didn't go well. And from that point on, Florida was not the same. And then the third one would be when they lost Will Greer to the PED thing, which they're 6-0 at the point, 6-0, and and McElwain's got it rolling with no offensive line. He's got it rolling, but Will Greer gets popped, he's out, mojo gone, and it just doesn't come back. And it's been a weird deal because Florida has been really good at times, not great, but really good. And they can't maintain it. It's hard to explain in a lot of ways. Really is. They've got their new facilities now. Everything is all brand spanking new and lovely, but they just kind of lost their mojo. Anyway, all right. And number 5, this is a stat I looked up because I was curious about this. I mentioned earlier that in true road games, Billy Napier is now 1-5 at Florida, and certainly that's, but you think about this, okay? And I talked about this with a group I spoke to last night. You think about this. Coach comes in, inherits an absolute mess, needs to bring discipline to the program. Got a lot of guys who just want to get away with murder. Not murder, but get away with things. He loses 5 of his first 6 road games. Things aren't going well. His offense is being questioned. He is the play caller, and people don't like that. Am I speaking of Billy Napier? No. You know what I'm talking about? Mike Norvell. Because that's exactly the same scenario. Mike Norvell went 1-8 on the road to start out. And obviously, they're in a good place right now, fourth year in. Now, I know nobody wants to wait that long, and I got this from a guy who said, I don't want to do exactly what FSU did. I don't want to do that. I never want to do what FSU does. No, but it's a good example. Norvell and Mark Stoops, who just beat Florida for the third straight time, which we never thought would happen, let alone one straight time, let alone 3 straight times, they gave him time to build the program. So, again, like I said, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be upset and still think that Napier's the right guy. He's just got to figure out some things. And he certainly needs to self-evaluate. We'll be right back with Coach Spurrier. We'll see what he's got to say about the game and about other games that were played on a great Saturday of football. And there were some games Thursday and Friday, too. I watched everything. 12 hours of watching football Saturday was probably too much, but I enjoyed it. We'll talk to him about that. And, of course, Robbie Andrew will be on a little bit later, too, for Yes, No, Where. Maybe this is another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 2 herniated discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another duly noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he has just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Tonight at the Gainesville Quarterback Club, we welcome SEC host Peter Burns, followed by next weekend, his co-host of SEC This Morning, Chris Doring, will be at the club on October 10th.
All right, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier Gridiron Grill. And, of course, our visits with Coach Spurrier every Monday are brought to you by Meldon Law. They won't back down. Certainly, I don't know what, in fact, I'm going to ask Robbie about this a little bit later on the show. More disappointing watching the Florida game or the Ryder Cup. I don't know which was worse. I thought maybe the same coaches were coaching the Gators and the Americans the way it was going.
Well, we made a little push in the Ryder Cup, and then it sort of fell apart there at the end. But, the guys were competing. The other guys just played better than us, and that's about all you can say in the Ryder Cup. And I guess when you look at the Florida-Kentucky game, the USA Today writer, a guy named, what was his name? Meyerberg, I think it was. But he just said, hey,
Paul Meyerberg,
he said, Kentucky's got a better football team, and they have a better football program. I'm questioning not if their program's better than ours over the years. I guess he's talking about right now at this point.
At this moment,
he could have a fact right
there. But that's the thing. Florida's doing everything they can to get this program back together, but they've got to, and Steve, I mean, it's hard to win on the road. We all know that. In fact, I did a thing on the guys and their records on the road, and the only other one who ever went 1-5 in his first 6 true road games, the first was Charlie Pell. I mean, that's how long ago it was. So I mean, it's hard.
We didn't win 5 or 6. I know we lost 1.
He won. He No, I'm talking about Charlie Pell's first year.
Oh, first year
His
here?
first year, and then his next year they went 1-5. So same with Billy Napier, same record, and that's I mean, this. There's self-reflection, there's self-evaluation, and that's something I think people want to hear from him, and I think he'll do it. I mean, I think he's smart enough to know what he's doing, especially on the road. It's just not working.
That's right. We're 1-7. I read on the road, and I went to that road victory at Texas A&M. I wanted to see all the pageantry with the horses
right. Yeah, I remember that,
before the game, and all the cadets marching halftime. They marched in between each other. It was really impressive to go to A&M. And Anthony Richardson had a really good game there,
yeah.
and that was a nice win for us. So I may need to go to more road games. I'm 1-0 with this bunch.
Yep.
Well, I went to the Georgia game, but that's
yeah, but I don't count that as a road game.
That's not a road game. It's in Florida,
and
they're in Georgia. It should
right.
be more of a home game for us, really.
But it's certainly a neutral site, as are a bowl game. So I don't count those as road games. I'm talking about true road games are hard because you've got, no matter where it is, you've got most of the fans are against you. They're yelling at you to fail.
Yeah, you just got to, accept the fact that it's going to be loud and all that kind of stuff. Somebody asked me one time, your guys were pretty good on the road. And I guess we were pretty good on the road. We're still a little bit better at home.
Yeah.
But we're pretty good on the road because we just tried to play our game and didn't think about, hey, this is tougher than normal. One of my favorite sayings, and a lot of people don't believe this, but one of my favorite sayings, Pat, was, when facing a difficult task, act like it's a piece of cake. We got these guys. Let's go. We got these guys. That's not cocky. That's just trying to elude confidence to your players. We can beat these guys. We're better than these guys. Let's go prove it.
Yeah.
That was what I tried to tell our guys. Instead of saying, boy, it's going to be tough. But all the coaches now, even Kirby, after he won on the road, he was talking about how difficult it was and how tough it was. And it is more difficult, I will say that. But mentally, you have to tell your guys, we can do this thing. It ain't all that hard.
Yeah, I would think winning on the road is better than winning at home. But no, I've asked players about it, and they go, no, you want to win at home. Because then afterwards you go see your family and you go out and in town and everything. But winning on the road to go in and shut people up. But this team is struggling to do that. They're struggling to find their footage when they get to road games. Played 2 of them this year, lost them both. And they were almost the same recipe. You had a big turnover that gave 3 points away. You had one big giant play for the other team. Your offense couldn't get untracked. When it finally got untracked, it really couldn't do some things in the red zone. You had 2 4th downs that were stopped. So that's where a lot of people are, I think, are right, trying to figure out what Florida is offensively right now.
Yeah, that could be a good question for anybody to answer. But again, our road record is not very good, and our home record is decent. It's better than the road record.
Yep.
And
almost once at home to Kentucky last year.
Yeah. And anyway, Vandy comes in for homecoming this week, and hopefully we can not only beat them, but look good beating them. I always think it's important to play the best you can every time out if possible. And back to home wins and road wins. In the off season, you travel around all kind of places. I used to go to these golf tournaments, Lake Tahoe, those celebrity things every year that I was in Florida. Nowadays, these guys, I guess, have to work all summer. But back in the 90s, we played a lot of golf in the off season and so forth. And the guys, they didn't say, Coach, what was your home record or what was your road record?
Right.
They said, what your record is. How'd you guys do? Where'd you finish? And really, as a coach, I think it was Bill Parcells. He said, you are, as a coach, whatever your record is.
Right.
And all this other stuff, you can throw it around, this, that, and the other. But what's your record, pal? That's what kind of coach you are.
Was there any secret to winning on the road for you, or was it just, I mean, obviously the win at Alabama the first year was one of the best wins
that was huge,
you ever had. But I mean, Urban had to reevaluate what he was doing on the road, and he talked about this, and he said we changed everything, including the butter that we were serving at the pregame meal, just to change everything up. But I mean, you guys, I know you had early, you didn't have great success at Tennessee or FSU, but you came back and were able to win games in Knoxville. Yeah. But was there anything you wanted to change, or?
Not too much. Tennessee and FSU were two of the 5 winningest teams in the 90s.
Yes, they
were. We didn't lose to the Ole Miss, Arkansas, those guys. Mississippi State got us once out there. I have to give credit. They actually got us twice at their place. But they just thoroughly beat us. Sometimes you just get beat. You don't play worth a dang. So then you come back and you make your changes and put 1 or 2 different guys in, and maybe change your offensive or defensive attitude a little bit. We're going to blitz more, or we're going to play back more, or something. If it's not going well, try something different. That's what I've always believed, and people always say that Duke team in '89 that was 1-3 and then won the last 8 games. Well, we found a running back nobody could tackle, and we had a defensive change. We went to basically an 8-man front and blitzed and challenged people to throw the ball.
Right.
And that gave us a chance to win because our offense was really good that year. But, make some changes. If you have to bench a couple of guys, do that. And, if it's not working, do something different.
Yeah, and that's we were talking earlier, Shamar James, the linebacker, who I like a lot as a player, but he said that, the early time bothered them. And I'm like, well, you did have to get up at 7, and the game was at noon. But I think Kentucky had to get up at 7, and they stay in a hotel, and they had to go. I mean, so that's not much of an excuse because you had to play an early game.
No, it's just the first early one, I guess, for us this year. But when we used to go to the Central Time Zone, Arkansas or Mississippi's and so forth, if we had the noon game, I told our guys, leave your watches on Eastern Time. And it was actually 11 o'clock out there, but we were playing at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we'll be playing in the afternoon, and our opponent, they'll be playing from 11 to 12, and then they'll so that way you eliminate, oh gosh, we're playing it in the morning, 11 o'clock. Gosh, those Pac-12 teams, they're playing at 10 o'clock in the morning, a lot now. So it's,
well, technically, Southern Cal was playing at 9 because on their time, it was a noon game, but
3-hour change.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah, so they were
that
playing
is early.
So maybe they got tired or something. That's why they almost let Colorado come back in that game. But that was a good game. There was a lot of good games this weekend, and I don't know if you got to watch if you watched the Ole Miss LSU game. That was fun to watch.
That was an interesting game, and it was a good game, and it was Lane Kiffin, got to give him credit because he was in the doghouse after losing to Alabama. He's never beaten his boss, Saban.
Never beaten anybody, really.
His record against top 10 teams was like 1-9 or something. But LSU, I think, came in top 10, and I sort of thought LSU would beat them. But again, Ole Miss, they got it together, especially their offense. Their defense was not very good, but they scored, 55 to win the game. So give Kiffin credit for that. And Auburn, they really came to play. I tell you what, if Auburn had maybe thrown the ball on some of those short yardages instead of trying to run for it, they may have beat Georgia, and that would have been a huge upset.
Well, what do you think about Georgia? Because, we're sitting here, and Georgia's still number 1, and they really haven't beaten anybody, but they've won every game.
Yeah.
And so people don't want to move them down because they keep winning. But I'm going to talk about this later, but I don't think they'd be in my top 5, to be honest.
If they had started the year, say like Kentucky, in the number 15 or so, they'd be 10 to 15. They'd still be right in there because they have not been overly impressive. And, of course, South Carolina had them 14-3 at half, and Auburn was tied in the fourth quarter there. So, but they're undefeated, and they have played well in the fourth quarter. So you got to give Kirby and his guys credit. They're winners right now, and they play like winners, but they can be beat. But you got to play better than them if you're going to beat them.
You got to, you can't make mistakes. You got to play at an elite level in terms of.
You can't go for 4th and 1
a
couple times and not make it. and you can't punt at midfield, and one play later they got the ball at midfield going the other way. So take some chances if you're going to beat them. And I thought Auburn matched up with them pretty well, and I wish maybe they'd tried some deeper balls on those short yardage plays.
Yep,
Might could have hit one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, of course, either one of their quarterbacks isn't very good, but maybe you throw it deep enough, eventually you're going to hit one, or you get an interference call or something like that. But certainly, I obviously watched that game, and I was thinking about because I'm still a Heisman voter, as you are, and
Brock Bowers.
I mean, I got to consider him. I mean, I know everybody's losing their mind. There were all these quarterback numbers that are being put up, and Michael Penix has been great, and Sanders at Colorado. But I vote for the best player in the country, and it may be Brock Bowers.
Could easily be him. They were talking on the radio this morning. He definitely, right now, would be one of the 4 to come in there, but it seems like the quarterbacks always have the edge.
Oh, yeah.
And, the Pac-12, somebody said what teams have the most top 10. Right now it's got to be the Pac-12 out there with Oregon State, Washington,
right,
and
Oregon.
Yeah, those 3 are right there.
And all transfer quarterbacks. Everybody in the Pac-12 has a transfer.
Everybody's got one. They were talking about when Lincoln Riley was at Oklahoma, Baker Mayfield transferred in, Kyler Murray transferred in, Jalen Hurts transferred in. So those
that's
quarterbacks.
What you got to do it to
Heck yeah. Transfer. If there's a good player out there that can help your team, go get him. And but hopefully you bring in a player. If you have to give him a lot of money, he better be a good player.
I know.
Because if you give a bunch of money to a guy and he's sitting on the bench, then the rest of the guys say, "Time out, coach. How come he's getting $10,000 a game and I'm only getting $2,000?" Exactly. Something like that. So anyway, that's part of it.
That's happened to Florida, and I'm not going to get into names, but there's a player who other guys are getting paid more, and he was upset. And he's no longer with the team, but that's something that you have to deal with. Your weekend started out great because you went to see Tulsa, and then it didn't go good at the end because, man, I was heartbroken for Duke, and especially for their quarterback, Riley Leonard. It looks like it's a bad injury there with his ankle. And then obviously South Carolina just couldn't capture the magic that they did the year before. Yeah,
all 3 of my teams went down this week, but my new team, Tulsa, my son Steve Jr. is the offensive coordinator out there, and Kevin Wilson. I think Kevin is an excellent head coach. I was able to watch him the day before the game. They had their little run-around preview in the stadium there. And, I mean, they didn't go full go, but they covered a lot of ground, threw a lot of passes. Cardale, their quarterback, he was almost going to get benched, but they said, no, the other kid's not quite ready.
Right.
And he had the game of his life. He
did.
He was like 14 out of 17 at one time there and scored a couple touchdowns. So he's a multi-talented kid, run, pass, and the receivers catch everything. So they're a pretty good-looking team. I really think if they keep improving, they're going to upset some people, but they play mostly teams that they match up with now.
Right.
They had Oklahoma and Washington, 2 of the top 10 teams in the country. They needed a Power 5 team that wasn't quite as good as those, and they'd really be making some noise right now, I think. They're 3-2, and their 2 losses are top 5 teams right now.
Right.
So they got a chance. They play FAU this week. FAU is, I think, 2-3, 3-2, something like that.
Yeah.
So we'll see how they progress. But keep your eye on those Tulsa Hurricane. Not plural, just Hurricane. Yeah.
Right. And it was certainly the Duke loss. It was hard for me to stomach. It was, I mean, they played their hearts out, and then at the end of the game, they give up, what was it, 4th and 16 on a scramble. But
4th and
again,
16.
this is why you and I have talked about this before. Rushing 3 never is a good idea in my mind. You always have to have that 4th rusher to make the quarterback have to move around.
Yeah, I tell you, a play that get back to rushing 3, Florida versus South Carolina in 2016. The drive that Florida scored a touchdown in the 4th quarter, they tried a double reverse pass and lost about 20 yards, and it was 3rd and 30. and we played 5 short, 3 deep, and they hit Percy on a little under route. And he goes around, and I said, where'd everybody go over here? They just all ran backwards. He made about 27 yards or something like that, and Tebow came in and ran 4th and 1 for the first down, and Tebow ended up scoring. And so they went ahead
17-10, then you guys
17-16. Yeah, they went ahead 17-16, and we came back and had a shot at the field goal after the long pass was taken back. But anyway, we played that three-man rush thing, so it didn't work out for us. So that 3rd and 30. But anyway, yeah, you got to make the quarterback not run on those situations.
Yep. All right, so let us get to our Campus USA play of the game, brought to you by Campus USA, and we usually have a Gator play on here. I don't think there were a lot of plays for Florida that I want to put. And I certainly don't want to put Ray Davis running through their defense.
Yeah.
But here's our play of the game right here. And this was
Mertz to the end zone. Touchdown.
And he was,
Gators.
They have been able to utilize the tight ends a little better than they did last year. I will give them that. I don't know what the deal was with Jonathan Odom. He didn't seem to play hardly at all in that game.
Yeah, I don't know where Jonathan was.
Yeah. But Hayden Hansen, pretty good player, and that was a good play, and that at least got Florida on the scoreboard. So I was like, when it happened, I went, well, at least the streak will be alive, the scoring streak, because they haven't not scored in a game since '89 or whatever it was. So at least that streak will be alive.
Yeah, that was 23-7. There was a lot of time left there.
I still thought they had a chance.
Yeah, we had a chance, I thought, but obviously it didn't work out at all.
But then they let them go right down the field on the first drive of the second half, and it just went downhill from there. Hey,
that was,
and back in the old days, I don't remember you ever losing to Kentucky. I don't remember Gator losing to Kentucky.
Well, we went 30 years without losing to Kentucky.
But they're a different team now.
Yeah, they're a lot better now. South Carolina and Vandy, and shoot, Vandy beat us last year. We got to buckle up and get
Missouri's
Vandy
undefeated, so that Eastern Division's all of a sudden looking very interesting.
It is. It's a tough league, and you got to be prepared to play in it.
That's right. It's
so
tough.
forth. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Coach. Always enjoy having you on Mondays. We'll be back with Robbie Andrew, who will do a yes, no, way, or maybe when we return on another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Tebow Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people.
Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. It's always our pleasure on Mondays, most Mondays, to bring in Robbie Andrew on the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line to play yes, no, way, or maybe. Robbie, Have you calmed down from Saturday?
Have I what?
Calmed down?
Oh, I'm fine, yeah.
I got a few texts from you that were a little bit, again, they were like everybody.
Yeah.
But they were like
my main text, Pat, was that, ever since he got here, I've been defending him, Napier, and I can't do it anymore. Because I kept saying, you've got to show progress. You got to show progress. They're not showing progress.
Well, and that's what I talked about in the first segment, is just how he needs to self-evaluate. He needs to figure out what he's not doing well. Urban Meyer did a great thing when he was here. He lost a lot of road games. In fact, I think he started out 2-4 in true road games.
Yeah, he had trouble too.
And then he said, we got to look at what we're doing and change everything. And he said, down to the butter that we use, the pregame meals. So he was pretty successful. So
yeah, but here's another thing, Pat. You and I have talked about it before. What is Napier's offense exactly? What's he trying to do? I don't know. They have no downfield passing game.
He's trying to set up 3rd and 8. I guess I don't.
Well, they're getting plenty of those.
And and then they're running the ball on 3rd and 8. So, it was not good. Let's get to Yes Nowhere, maybe brought to you by Big Mill's Cheesesteak. Of course, street dining done the right way. If you go in there and say you were listening to or watching another Dooley Noted podcast, free fries with your order. Robbie, number 1, the Florida football game was harder to watch than the Ryder Cup. It's close.
Pat, I was thinking maybe, but when I was watching both, I was thinking they're very similar because they were both so frustrating that you were thinking they'd be a good Ryder Cup and a good game with Kentucky.
Yep.
Neither panned out. They were both just awful. You knew fairly early in both that the outcome was going to be just a matter of how bad it was going to end up at the end.
I spoke to a group last night, and I used the Marv Levy story that he used to tell his team, which was, do you know why Hitler didn't win World War II? Because he couldn't win on the road. And I go, this could apply to the Ryder Cup. It applies to Florida football right now. You got to be able to win some road games. That's the bottom line. And Ryder Cup, they have not done very well.
Yeah, both failed miserably, Pat.
Yeah, well, and I pretty much probably watched, I would say, 8 minutes of the Ryder Cup after Friday. That was it for me.
Yeah. What's bad, Pat? When the real highlight for U.S. is Bones arguing with what's his name there outside the locker room, whatever it was.
I know. Everyone was like saying,
going after him.
Well, because it was all involving Tiger's caddy, and so they're like, Tiger's going to run in here and win the Ryder Cup for the Americans, but of course he can barely walk.
He's not going to be winning for anybody.
That's right. Number 2. Home field advantage is enough for the Twins to beat the Jays.
I'm going to have to say absolutely not on that one, Pat, because you look at Minnesota's playoff record.
You're going no way on Minnesota? No way?
Yeah, because we can't hit. 2, the Twins haven't won a playoff game in I don't know how long. They've lost, how many in a row is it? I've lost count.
Yeah.
So, the home field is going to be nothing in this, and it never has in the playoffs for the Twins.
Well, here's another bad thing for you. The Jays probably have the best healthy pitching staff left in the playoffs. So and your team, when they hit the ball, it goes a long way, but they don't hit it that much.
Yeah. And two of our best players are out. Royce Lewis, and he's out, and the shortstop's out. So, it just doesn't look good. But I'm just glad they won the division and made it there.
I'll be rooting for them, just so you know. I always root for the Twins.
I'll root for the Braves too.
I root for the Twins until they play the Braves, and then when they play the Braves, the Twins always win.
They won't be playing this year.
Okay. Hey, you can always have hope. All right, number 3, Robbie, on Yes, No Way, or maybe brought to you by Big Mill's Cheesesteak. Florida should bring back Ron Zook as its special teams coach.
No, sorry, Pat. That's not the answer, really.
I'm reaching.
Yeah, you are. But a lot of college teams are going to coach by committee special teams. I guess that's what Florida's doing, and obviously it's not working out real well. So they need to reevaluate that. But bringing Zook back that's not the answer. No.
He's a good special teams
Maybe bringing
coach.
maybe bringing Urban Meyer back to be the head coach would work.
Well, that ain't happening either. He doesn't. He
I
talked
know,
about that the
I
other
know.
day. He was very comfortable and not, what he's doing now. But and again, that's the unfortunate part of this is when and some of the things that were said on Twitter to Chris Couch are just not right. I mean that's
pathetic, really.
It makes you a gidiot, and
Yeah.
look. People, when I use that term gidiot, they get mad at me, and I go, well, look, there are gidiots out there, okay?
They're all over the place.
Yeah, but, it's not the majority of the fans, but there are idiots out there. And I got a couple of emails from
Yeah. It's the outspoken minority, Pat. They're the only ones you hear about. I mean, a lot of people are supporting the Gators and they're going to try to help Napier turn this thing around, but you don't hear from them much. You hear the negative ones. That's the main thing.
No, and look, I don't mind people being negative after a game like that. I was negative too. I think everybody. Some of the stuff I wrote was pretty harsh, but the bottom line is, it's possible, and I mentioned this earlier. It's possible to be mad at what's going on and where it's going, and still be in favor of the guy who's the head coach there.
Yeah, exactly, Pat. You're right.
Yeah. So anyway,
because right now
are possible.
Yeah. The thing is, though, Pat, now it's going to be hard for this team to get bowl eligible. So it's going to be a real challenging second half of the year for Napier and Florida. So they're going to need all the support they can get.
Yep. I'm not sure I see 5 wins, but who knows?
No, I don't. I'm not sure I do either, Pat.
All right, Robbie. I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks again for being on Yes Nowhere Maybe. All right,
good luck
Robbie,
in the playoffs.
Of course, is brought to you by Hesser and Kipke. Let us get to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick picks, and we're going to pull a winner today. We've had so many people qualify for different reasons. Most of you picked Europe, which was not surprising. But anyway, so I'm going to ask Zach for a number between 10 and 61. So we had a lot of qualifiers, but I always like to give a little leeway there on both sides. And he has no idea where where is there really a number 10?
I have no idea. I'm going to go with 36.
36 would be Keith Collier. Keith Collier, Keith Collier won our very first Leonardo's Quick Picks. The very first one, episode, whatever it was, 10 or whatever it was. So Keith, give me your information. I know last time we met in a parking lot, and I gave him the stuff he won. But you'll get $25 at Leonardo's as well as a Bob Dooley Invitational hat, which everybody wants one of those. So appreciate Keith for always getting in the contest too. He's in every week. So he is our winner of our Leonardo's and Millhopper Quick Picks. Let's go to our Swamp games of the weekend. And of course, the Swamp Restaurant. I won't be there Thursday, and Jeff is supposed to be there Thursday. But if the Rays play Game 3, I don't think he'll be there. I don't know what's going to happen then. Well, we'll find out. But he'll be there with somebody else, probably with Paul Gardner. But I'm not going to be there. I've got to speak, and I get to speak to the quarterback club or the Palaca Gator Club. Get it straight, Pat. All right, let's get to our Swamp games of the weekend. I'm just giving you the baseball games. That's all I'm going to give you today. We'll get to the football games later. But because the schedule is the same Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It is a glorious time. You got football games and you got baseball playoff games. This is my favorite time of the year, to be honest with you. I got over the Ryder Cup. All right. And these games times are going to be the same as we sit here today, okay, on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Texas at Tampa Bay, 3 o'clock on ABC, which is why we're not doing a radio show the next couple of days. We'll do one today, but not Tuesday or Wednesday, and maybe not Thursday. Texas at Tampa Bay, 3 o'clock on ABC. Toronto at Minnesota, 4:30 on ESPN. Arizona at Milwaukee, 7 o'clock on ESPN2. And Miami at Philadelphia, 8 o'clock on ESPN. The next day, the exact same schedule, same times. Now, again, you could have rain issues. You never know. They won't have them in Tampa, but and then whether they'll be the same times Thursday or not may depend on who's still alive. So, but they're scheduled right now for the same times on Thursday. So those are our Swamp games of the weekend. You can go in there and get Sangria Saturday, man. It is sweet to go in there and get that and get all the great other stuff that they have at the Swamp Restaurant. Let us get to our Adams Ribco to Go Gator of the weekend. I decided not to go with anybody on the football team. Don't think anybody deserved it. Guys played good. Ricky Pearsall did what he could do. Another highlight tape score. But I decided to go with volleyball player. And the Adams Ribco to Go Gator of the weekend is Kennedy Muff. Now, she is the young lady who has taken the place of Alyssa Stuckey because of her knee injury and out for the year. And Florida needed a win. They needed to win a match, obviously, and did get the win against South Carolina, 3-1. And Kennedy Muff, 44 assists, is a little more than 4. And again, she's taking her place and doing the best she can. She's playing her tail off and as hard as she can, and I give her credit. She also had 2 aces in the match, the most of any Gator player in that match. And they won. And I just wanted to give her special recognition because that's not easy. You're stepping in there for an All-American setter and one of the best players in college volleyball, and she's doing the best she can. And to have a match like that, I want to give her a lot of credit. Kennedy Muff is our Gator of the weekend. Let us get to our Gainesville Quarterback Club great picks. We like to do these, and I didn't do good on my picks this week, and I certainly didn't do good on them here in this version of my picks. Again, I always keep the same picks, but I pick them in different places. But I went 3-4, so I'm 16-12 now. And again, this was over 2 different games. We try to do some of the early games, the first on Monday, and then the rest of them on Thursday. And by the way, Peter Burns will be the speaker on Tuesday night. So I am not introducing him, but I'm going to go, and I'm invited to all the meetings, and I'm going to go. Andy, I think, will be introducing him, but I just want to see Peter. He's a great guy and a good friend of mine, and look forward to seeing him. So here we go. We got 3 games we're going to pick. Kansas State opened as a 10.5 point favorite. It went down to 7 at Oklahoma State. I'm sorry, it opened at 7. Now it's 10.5. That's why I'm going to take Okie State, because it went to 10.5. I'm not sure why. Sometimes they open and early money comes in, but I'm going to take Oklahoma State to cover the 10.5. Nebraska's getting 3.5 at Illinois. I'm going to take Illinois. Home game. Neither team's any good. I think Illinois will find a way to win this game. And then Jacksonville State at Middle Tennessee. Middle Tennessee getting 4.5 or giving 4.5, and I'll take Middle Tennessee. One of my favorite teams. They were the first helmet that I got for the Bob Dooley last year, so I always root for them. Jacksonville State, I think their either coach or player is somebody I should know, and I can't remember who it is. I think that guy that used to be the Missouri quarterback, Basilek, I think may be their quarterback now. Anyway, sometimes I come on here with no information. I'm really good at that. So those are the 3 picks I'm making on our Gainesville Quarterback Club. Great picks. Let's get to Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Hesser and Kipke, of course, a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of workers' compensation and family law. Ken and Jennifer take great pride in their one-to-one focus on each and every client they represent. Ken is board certified in workers' compensation law by the Florida Bar, while Jennifer possesses extensive jury trial experience with a nearly 20-year background as a prosecutor. Don't believe me? Well, check out their 5-star Google reviews. Set an appointment at hklawfl.com, or better yet, give them a call at 352-339-9920, Hesser and Kipke. Let's start with number 1. And I hate to do this, but I keep having to do this, and that's talk about people who've passed away. And it feels, I don't know if it's just that we're old, so it's, Robbie and I, so it's more significant when people die. In fact, when I got Robbie on earlier, the first thing he said off the air was that Russ Francis had passed away. And sad because he died in a plane crash. 70 years old, great tight end, New England. Played for a couple teams, but he was a great player. Was really into aviation. I think he flew jets at one point. Anyway, but he this all happened just today. Russ Francis dying, and then yesterday, Tim Wakefield passing away, brain cancer at 57. Russ Francis, by the way, was 70. Tim Wakefield, 57. And stupid Kurt Schilling, without the family knowing about it, talked about it on his podcast or radio or everything. And that, so they had to acknowledge it, and then he died like a few days later. Just sad story. Great knuckleball, man. And he got a lot of outs for different teams, especially the Red Sox. Somebody said he had the best knuckleball ever. I don't know. Phil Niekro had a pretty good knuckleball, but those are the top two. And you can make an argument about both of them, but really sad. And of course, Tim Wakefield was doing Red Sox radio, I think, too. So, but sad, just sad. Two, let's go to something that was also sad, but certainly not as important as somebody passing away. But the U.S. Ryder Cup performance was just awful. What bothered me too is when Zach Johnson, their captain, said, "You know what? I wouldn't have done anything differently." And I'm like, "You lost. You got smoked. You made a little bit of a comeback, but really you got your butts kicked." I told the story about getting up Friday morning. I think I told on radio to go play golf, but I set my alarm early, and then I woke up anyway an hour earlier. And I'm going to go watch the Ryder Cup. This will be great. And then next thing you know, I was watching the Andy Griffith reruns, because it's not like you can go back to sleep when you wake up to watch something and they're losing 4-0 in the Ryder Cup, and you go, what else is on? So you're not going back to sleep. But I played as badly as they did that day. I think that had a lot to do with it. But again, you got to be able to win on the road. Got to be able to win on the road, as I said. And we have not been able to do that for 3 decades. So you just can't win on the road. Now everybody's excited because 2 years from now, Bethpage Black. There's a lot of talk. People want to make Tiger the captain and everything. Whatever. Win on the road one time. That's what I want to see. Yeah, I'll be into it 2 years from now, and I'll be into a rowdy crowd and everything. But I mean, the most excitement was the little dust up that they had in the parking lot. Number 3 on Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. I mentioned this earlier when Coach Spurrier was on, because I started thinking about it. Again, I don't vote on the AP poll anymore because once I left the paper, wasn't a member of AP, Associated Press. So I'm not allowed to vote on it, which is fine. I liked voting, and I would love to do it again. Here's how I would put my top 5 right now. I'd put Texas 1, 2 really good wins for them. I'd put FSU 2, obviously a good win for them when they beat LSU at the beginning of the year. Michigan 3, and the only reason I would put Michigan 3 instead of 2 is because they haven't played anybody, but they haven't even come close to anybody too. So they may be the best team. Washington 4 and Ohio State 5. I would not put Georgia in the top 5. If you took away the helmets and put the body of work up there and had no idea Georgia had won the last 2, no way I would put Georgia number 1. If I was a voter, I would have them 6. And then I would be getting calls from people, why would you put Georgia 6? Well, because you vote what you think. Now, if Georgia smokes Kentucky this week, which I think they will, then I would consider Georgia for 1. They would have finally played somebody. But so far, they really haven't. And again, I get back to I really wish we could have NFL scheduling for the best teams in college football. Anyway. All right, that is it for Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. Let's wrap it up with Pat Dooley's story time. Last week I gave, and of course, is always brought to you by Eastlake Pediatrics. Mike Jordan and the group down there, we appreciate them. This is a weird one for you, because last week I gave you a music one. This week I'm giving you a movie one. And that is because I was flipping around the TV, and Doc Hollywood was on. And Doc Hollywood was a huge deal around here. As you know, they filmed it in Micanopy. And every time I drive through Micanopy and see the light or the sign, the exit sign, I think Doc Hollywood. Because it was such a big deal, especially down there. And when I only watched. It was like the last 20 minutes of the movie. I watched every minute of it. I love the movie. You may not like it. It is a sappy but it's just a fun movie with Michael J. Fox. And those guys were hanging out. There used to be a hotel. It's now part of Shands. In fact, I've had 3 operations there. I think knee replacements and the like. And I think my wife's had 2. So at that spot. But that used to be the big hotel in Gainesville. It was called the University Center. They would have all these great buffets and everything that people would go to. And that's where they hung out. And they would take over the piano bar. And it was pretty cool. But the story I'm going to tell you doesn't involve me, but it does in a way. And that was that our writer for Scene Magazine went down there to interview Michael J. Fox. They set him up with an interview. And I was like, man, that is so cool. So Bill DeYoung, and he went down there. And when he came back, he came over to me right away and he goes, so I sit down with Michael J. Fox, introduced myself, Bill DeYoung from the Gainesville Sun. And Michael J. Fox goes, Gainesville Sun, great college sports section. And I'm like, I was the sports editor at the time. So I'm like, yay! Michael J. Fox loves our sports section. It's not going for naught. All this hard work we're doing. It made my day. And my wife got so sick of me telling that story. But I still tell it. Because if that movie comes on, she goes, don't tell it. Don't tell the Michael J. Fox story, how he liked your sports section. He didn't even tell me, but it got to me. Anyway, it meant a lot to me. That was back when there was a sports section, the Gainesville Sun. Not so much today. Anyway, look, Dave Whitley's a good dude, does a good job. People complain to me about him a lot because he's not me. He's different than me. He's really good. Quit complaining. Quit complaining about NIL and David Whitley. Just accept him and go with it. Anyway, that's going to do it for our show. Appreciate Zach, as always, for doing a great job. And I gave him a lot of things today, so he's got to edit and copy and paste and everything, but we'll get it done. We'll be back Thursday again with Ben Troop. Look forward to that. It'll be a lot of fun. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.